Yeah, I'll lead it, brother. All right, and we are live. Welcome to a live or a special edition of the Rev and Shanny Show live. This is a serious topic. We're usually an entertainment channel, but for today, we're doing something special for my birthday. So we're going to be talking about Gaza. And I think the best way to open this up, Sam, because you're a brilliant guy, I want to tell you who this is. This is Scientist Sam. He was a member of the great debate community back in the day, G Plus, which is gone. I don't. Sam, is there anybody still around? I don't think so. Really, is there?
I mean, scattered off to pieces, all kind of doing their own thing, I would say. Still some
Okay.
people I talk to, some people, we've all gone different directions. I'm certainly not as online as I used to be. So I think that's the general sentiment.
Gotcha. Well, that's a great answer. You're great to interview. Okay, so I think the best way to open this up is to give your position fully. I want you to take the floor. You got the floor. We're not going to say nothing. And you just give us your position on the whole situation.
Well, I guess to start with, what aspect of the situation? Because
Well,
I think we have to recognize that most modern accountings of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict go back to 1880, or in
yeah,
the 1880s, I should say, right, from the original Zionist movement. So I guess
right.
it's hard to, I can tell you what my position is on the current conflict, but I don't know that that's going to be very informative.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. Let's give us your position on Zionism and what it means to you, like specifically, and then broader if you want to do that.
Well, I mean, I think I'd take kind of the mainstream definition of Zionism, which is that Zionism is the idea that the Jewish people should have a nation where they are free to exist from threat of persecution and genocide in some cases, right?
Yes.
And I kind of take the traditional Zionist movement, not a lot of kind of the mainstream Israeli right-wing Zionism, which is to say that the original Zionist movement was largely secular. It wasn't based around Judaism. It was really just
Right.
based around the idea of protecting the Jewish people. I think that the events since October 7th and the incredible amount of anti-Semitism has actually really strengthened a lot of my thoughts around it. I used to be much more iffy, but definitely seeing how much just like Western hatred of Jews there is, I'm definitely pretty convinced. And also
All right.
just some of the education about the Arab world that I've had since that time. It was more cursory. Now I've kind of looked into a lot more stuff.
Okay, interesting. Shanny, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do have a question. Don't you think the Palestinians have the right to live the same way as Jewish people is without persecution or genocide or anything like that?
Well, so we're probably going to disagree on this. I don't think the current conflict is a genocide. I don't think there's a lot of evidence for that claim. And then the other thing should be is, yeah, I agree. There should be two states. But I also think that part of that has to entail that the Palestinians get out of their own way, and particularly the Palestinian leadership.
Yeah.
At early 2000, the early 2000s, Ehud Barak, the Israeli prime minister, basically gave the Palestinians more than what they asked for. And
That's true. I remember. Yeah.
Yasser Arafat basically said, "No, fuck you," and
Yeah.
allowed the second Intifada to happen, which significantly we can't downplay how much that radicalized the Israelis.
Oh yeah. You're absolutely correct. Man, this is really good discussion so far. My question to you would be, how do you explain the excessive bombing and the way the IDF has been acting? I call it excessive force, Sam. And that's why I do believe that genocide is happening, because the Israeli government is using such force against these people that don't even have an army. So how would you answer?
Well, first off, I think that's categorically false. At the time of the conflict, Hamas had 24 battalions. Were you aware of that?
But they don't have tanks and stuff, Sam. Am I correct? Like,
I don't know if they have tanks. I don't know their
right.
exact But like these are clearly not. This is clearly a militarized group, largely funded by Iran, which I think
I would agree.
And I don't know if you guys would agree or disagree, but
I
Iran
agree on that.
Is like, well, I mean, that's factual, right? Like we have factual evidence that they're funded by Iran, but Iran, I would say, is like a force for evil in that region. Largely,
I agree. What would you want?
I disagree. Iran isn't doing anything, but I will say this. Wait. I'm answering. Do you find it appropriate that the IDF put a fellow Palestinian man who was just a merchant and put it on top of their tank
Humvee thing, yeah,
and rode around with it? Do you think that's appropriate?
I'm not here to excuse war crimes. I think that there's a key thing here, right? I think that if you can name me a war that was prosecuted without war crimes, I'm open to that. But I don't think war crimes make a genocide. So I want to say two things here. So circling back to Iran did drone strike Israel. Iran has funded missiles. Iran has funded Hezbollah, which is attacked. And people can just look this up, right? Hezbollah and Hamas, their biggest funder is Iran. We know
it's a fact. You're right, Sam.
For 100%, yeah. But to answer the question that Jason brought up, I'm actually going to throw it back to you. What is the proper civilian? So, do you know what the current estimate is for the civilian or actually reversing that, combatant to civilian ratio?
No, I don't. But I could tell you that
it's about 2.5, between 2.5 and 3. And I'm not using the IDF's numbers, by the way. I'm going higher than the IDF. Do you know what it was for the U.S. in Mosul?
No, tell me.
1 to 3. So, was the U.S. committing a genocide, if we're going to go with that?
I see what you're saying, but how would you get those numbers of combat? Because, Sam, here's the problem. We see in the real media, and I understand that you're going to get your numbers from certain places and stuff, and that's fine, something that's official. But my problem is we see the civilians are being decimated, Sam. I mean, it's all over Instagram. It's on. These people are live streaming this.
They're living in rubble, sir. Do you think that's appropriate?
Right.
I mean, I think so. I would put that back. They could end them living in rubble by returning the hostages, right? I don't think it's appropriate, but I think that war is hell, right? Like we can't forget, right? Hamas went in, and
do you think Bibi Netanyahu should be held accountable for his war crimes?
I think to the extent that he's responsible, yes.
Good.
I have no problem with saying that there are excesses. I have no problem saying that even Bibi Netanyahu is not the most problematic person in the cabinet, in the Knesset. He is not, right? But the thing remains is if the Palestinians wanted peace, why are they not giving back?
They don't have proper leadership. They don't have proper leadership. It was taken away from them.
What was
what do you expect? What do you expect a bunch of civilians to do when they're surrounded by tanks? And yes, it is civilians. Don't lie to me.
No,
don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. I know they are lies.
That's not.
These people are surrounded by tanks and rubble.
Yeah.
And their tents have been bombed repeatedly. I look at the active reporters who are still on the ground and see what they report.
That's war crimes. It's straight up. But you're saying if there are war crimes revealed, you believe that justice should be done. So we have no problem there. You know?
So
do you believe in a ceasefire?
I do if Hamas returns the hostages. So it's important
that's
to say
reasonable.
There is this is where I'm going to have to push back on Shanny here, that it is a fact that there is a political bureau that runs Hamas. Now,
when is Israel going to return the 12,000 hostages
Honey,
that the IDF has?
You can't cut him off because he's making.
I'm just saying.
Okay, but he's making a point. Let him finish the point, then you can come in.
It's
okay.
So we can look at this, right? So like Hamas is a political organization in addition to being a military and social organization, right? Like
Sam, so question from me. Do you regard Hamas as a terrorist organization? Because I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're not. You get into a weird point with, are they a state government? There's a lot of arguments there. For simplicity's sake, I will agree with you. They do terrorist things. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So like you can look at this. They do have consolidated leadership, right? They had a whole ass political bureau. Now, 2 out of their top 3 commands have been allegedly, and I have to say allegedly, even though I do believe that Mossad assassinated them. So it's Ismail Haniyeh and Mohammed Daif, Mohammed Daif's one of the guys who was responsible for October 7th. But you can look into this. You know, Yahya Sinwar.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Is the head.
Yeah.
Is the head. So to act as if the I agree that, like, yes, civilians are suffering, but how do you respond to the fact that Yahya Sinwar has said that the reason he rejects approaching a ceasefire is because he knows that more Palestinian casualties will lead to a better external image to the world?
That's a great question, Chan.
You know,
do you want to respond to that?
I think the Palestinians should not be involved in a war between Hamas and Israel.
The civilians.
But
yeah,
Hamas,
they're being put in the middle of them.
Then are you critical?
Well, that's fine. Put something like the Navy SEALs in or the Green Berets and get rid of them. I know they can do that.
So
why do the civilians have to be bombed?
Oh, there's
why can't you stop what you're doing to let Hamas do their moves and then get them when they're moving instead of hurting the innocent civilians?
That's a great point.
Do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah,
sure.
So the reason is because actually, compared to traditional incursions, the Israeli choice, like so using these bunker buster bombs, targeting the tunnels, that actually leads to less in an embedded population, fewer casualties. So you can look at World War II, the U.S.'s campaign.
That's a lie.
He might be right, honey. But here you're still blowing apart.
This is not, by the way, guys. This is not.
Sam, like,
this is not my.
I know you like to look at war in a strategic manner, but I look at war in a different way. I look at war as pointless, and I think it's 2 old men fighting each other, and it needs to stop. And they're using the young men to kill the old men. Okay, the IDF has 12,000 Palestinians who are not part of Hamas in their jails right now, and they're being abused completely. I'm sorry. I'm not going to agree with the state of Israel in this current affairs of how they're dealing with things.
Okay, now let Sam respond.
So I think that if we're going to attack the tactics of Israel, it's fair to defend that on tactical grounds. Most of my views on the tactics come from John Spencer, who teaches urban warfare at West Point in the U.S.,
right.
And he's considered the worldwide expert on it. So I don't profess to have certainty. There's been criticisms of them.
Good. He's an idiot.
Criticisms I agree with. He's not, I guarantee you, not an idiot. But
no, I think everyone who makes warfare are idiots. They're destroying their souls.
Well, I mean, would you agree that Hamas are idiots for crossing Israeli borders? Okay, I'm glad we agree. As for the 12,000, Palestinians who are imprisoned, they are not hostages, right? These are actual.
They are hostages.
Prisoners.
They were taken without their consent, without any crimes, and without any due process. They're hostages.
They did receive due process. Now,
no, they did not, sir. Yes, they did not get due process. That's not what the Palestinians are saying.
But the Palestinians are like. But again, you are not looking at this situation from what also the Israelis are saying, right?
I'm not going to. I see them as the aggressor.
But they aren't, right? Hamas are the people who, like, if you can name me a single conflict in the Israeli-Palestinian war that was started by the Israelis, I will give you money right now.
No, he's right. He's
October 7th. It was admitted in the Israeli Times.
You got a problem with October 7th.
That it was friendly fire.
Yeah,
it was mostly friendly fire.
It was.
Yes, it was. Go look at the report.
I did. Look at the reports.
It says it was friendly fire. What are you talking about?
No, it doesn't. No, it
yes,
doesn't.
It does. Don't lie.
Can you link
Don't
a source
lie.
on that?
He's not. Well, he's not lying. He's okay, Sam. What would you name as your main media source where you get your news from?
I do a variety of sources, depends on the topic.
Okay.
I would say for October 7th, I've looked at Haaretz, Haaretz, Times of Israel, CNN, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. All of those have generally agreed that the number of casualties is about 1,200. And that most of those were civilians. I think 800 of them were civilians.
Okay,
but I'm
fair
going
enough.
off the top of my head.
The Jerusalem Post.
We got an issue here because all of the media that we're talking about there that you consume is Zionist owned.
You're lying. You're
either
lying or you're getting lied to.
We're having an issue with truth because this is going to be rough because our sources are going to be way different. And I understand that they're coming from a certain standpoint, but we're going to have fundamental disagreements because you know who I am.
Who owns the New York Times?
Well, I'm not going to go down this road, but you can dig into this, and it's all owned by Zionist interests. Okay,
but what about Reuters and the Associated Press?
Remember, Sam, here's the problem
those are
with
also
me.
Reporting the same numbers. But then where do we get reliable numbers for? Because I've named 6 different sources that are regarded by most experts as reliable.
Absolutely. And see, for normalness, I would agree with you, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, and you got to remember that.
See, this is the Jerusalem Post. This is one of the biggest Israel magazines, newspapers.
Can you link the article in the private chat so that I can check it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's talking about friendly fire.
Yeah.
I agree. There was, like in any conflict, there's going to be friendly fire, but it is acknowledged, and even Hamas took credit for the number of casualties and the hostages taken. We can't.
You got the link right there, Sam.
It says right here, the IDF has aggressively denied various other leaks about failures related to October 7th. So the complete silence in the face of this latest report was telling. Officially, the IDF probes on October 7th, I'm going to read this whole article, will only be disclosed to public in mid-July. On Wednesday, the 12th, reported leaks of some of key findings. The IDF notably did not deny the report. They did not deny the report, okay?
There you go.
Although the IDF also did not confirm it, the military has been aggressive in its denials of other leaks about failures related to October 7th. So the complete silence in the face of this latest reporting is telling. According to the report, the probe will find numerous cases of friendly fire errors leading to tragic deaths, groups of IDF soldiers who were too hesitant to confront Hamas invaders, as still others rushed to fight without being formally summoned. Higher up, commanders ordering some groups of soldiers to remain in reserve second line capacity when they should have headed into the front, and not knowing how to handle complex battlefield questions involving a hostage situation in Be'eri.
Inside job.
So you're telling me that the Jerusalem Post is lying about the friendly fire, huh?
I didn't. So again, my claim is that I go along with where the evidence is. I was already aware that there was some friendly fire. That doesn't account for the majority. Even this article doesn't support that it accounts for the majority of casualties. It doesn't say that anywhere.
Okay, that's fair enough. But yeah, there was a big issue.
I have a question about.
It said mass casualties, sir.
I also have a question about for Jason. Why do you trust the Jerusalem Post in this context, but you don't trust other sources or even the Jerusalem Post in other contexts?
Don't get me wrong, Sam. I'm not saying your numbers are wrong. I'm telling you what I've seen with my eyes, okay? And what they did to Rafah, they said Rafah was going to be safe. They bombed the shit out of it. You know why? because this comes down to a simple thing, Sam. It's a land grab. Did you know that there's Jews buying land in Florida, buying land over there? What they're bombing right now, they're selling it in Florida.
So I would love to see.
This is an Israeli land grab.
This is Rafa right now.
Am I going to be?
How do you feel about Rafa looking like this?
No, yeah, just get 1 second, honey.
I can't, guys. Like, I'll just leave if this is going to be an issue. But I need to be allowed. It's two people. I think it's fair that as a guest, I'm allowed at least equal speaking time.
Yeah. Well, you've spoken a lot, Sam. Yeah, you're going to continue to.
Like, so what I would say is that when you look into the incursion into Rafa, again, in terms of the number of casualties, it's actually been relatively low, right? Have you noticed that the number counted dead has remained, according to all sources, right? The Gaza Health Ministry.
Yeah, looking at the rubble, it's really low, isn't it, sir?
You just got
relatively low compared to the rest of the incursion.
We disagree on that completely. But go ahead.
Okay, what's your source on that?
Okay, well, I mean, look, I'm
going with Hamas's numbers, right? So I'm going with the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers on this. It's been relatively low. Well, that's interesting.
Low. I mean, maybe they are lower than we think they are, Shanny.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the IDF is lying.
Well, it's Hamas's numbers.
The IDF. I'm not quoting the IDF. I'm quoting Hamas.
I don't trust Hamas either.
I don't trust Hamas either. They're they're directly connected to Israel.
Netanyahu funded Hamas
for October 7th. Didn't you know that?
Yeah.
No, so that's you're mixing that up. So basically, you're connecting two different claims that are unrelated to this. So, claim number one is that Netanyahu, and this is true. You can look it up in cabinet meetings. That's why I'm not a fan of Netanyahu's policies. Is that he said if you're going to oppose a two-state solution, you should be for empowering Hamas, which is to say driving divide and conquer. Now, that's been taken wildly out of context, but it basically meant he was going to look at it from a benign point of view. Again, not controversial. That's what he said, right?
Right.
And then number two is that he allowed, in light of this, he allowed financial transactions from Qatar, where most of the Hamas leadership prior to October 7th was living, those financial transfers to then go into the coffers of Hamas and the civil organization in Gaza. Again, I don't understand this idea that there's like four-dimensional chess going on, that Hamas has every incentive to exaggerate the amount of civilian casualties. That's same
with goal. Israel.
Fair enough on all of that, but this is clearly an inside job. I hate to say it. The Israeli government is coordinating with the Hamas government to kill as many civilians as they can. That's what's happening here.
What's the evidence of that?
What's happening there, Sam? But if both governments wanted to save civilians, there'd be no bombings into fucking these 2,000-pound bombs.
Okay,
it's nuts.
Do you want me to answer two claims here? So the claim here is, why don't these governments want to reduce civilian casualties? So I would say that there's a section of the Israeli government that is at best indifferent towards Palestinian life, and at worst outright genocidal. So I would say people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, right? These are minority people that have no power over the prosecution of the war, but they're an influence. And I would say that at best, it's probably they're indifferent. But I would say that Hamas has openly said, Yahya Sinwar, who is now the leader of Hamas, has openly said that it looks better for Hamas if more civilians are killed. That's the reason they embed their civilians there. The reason why they use 2,000-pound bombs, and this is according to John Spencer, is that these are really deep tunnels, and the only way that you're going to be able to reach those tunnels,
civilian houses, right?
They cease to be civilians once they are sheltering armed combatants. That is just law.
Really? So were the Jews ceased to be civilians when the Germans were going after them?
The Jews weren't housing combatant.
They were being
And this is-
hidden back in that time. Why can't people hide when they're scared of being killed?
because we're not talking about
it's okay
hiding.
for your people to do it.
This completely different situation.
No,
So,
it's not. There are civilians in the middle
Shanny,
of
you're
this dying.
Shanny, you asked me a
That's
question.
because I'm
and then you
passionate
shouted.
and I don't give a fuck.
Okay, but like, let's try to be like.
There are
I've been very
civilians that are
polite.
dying and you don't give a fuck.
I do give a fuck. That's why I'm
Do
suggesting
you
that
really?
Hamas-
Why are you defending this warfare then?
I'm not defending the warfare. I'm explaining what's happening. War is an ugly thing. I think that Hamas, if they actually care about civilians, shouldn't be embezzling billions of dollars. It's
And I
over
could
a
say the
lifetime of
same
billions.
thing about Israel, sir.
Israel is not embezzling billions of dollars.
Israel is embezzling billions of dollars from the American people. What the fuck are you talking about?
No,
Most
it isn't.
people are against this shit.
Okay, so the claim here
You're telling
is
me
that
$300 billion of our tax money going to a foreign war is okay and not embezzlement? You got to give me a fucking break, bro.
what is your definition of embezzlement? So what's the chat think right here?
I just find it interesting that it's wrong for Hamas to get money from Iran, a foreign government, but it's not okay, or it is okay for America to give money to Israel. Do you not see the problem here that we have two foreign countries starting a war between each other and causing this shit? Like, we're funding Israel, right? And Iran is funding Hamas.
So I don't have
I don't think any of it is okay.
Shanny, you got to give me a second to actually get my words out.
I am 100% anti-war.
You're being very impolite here.
I don't care.
I think Rev.
I'm passionate. Let me be passionate. You have a
problem
with raised voices?
I don't have a problem with raised voices, but
then let me be passionate polite without you acting like a scared little boy.
Holy
I'm
shit,
not acting scared. I'm being very patient and polite with you. You don't get a lot of polite treatment.
I don't need.
Rev, am I being polite?
You, Sam? Dude, listen. I've heard all the shit you used to talk about me. Do you think I'm going to come to you as, hi, how are you? I love you.
I'm not asking you to love
me. You never apologized to me once over the shit you've done to me. Not once.
Shanny, I don't think that you should be grandstanding right now. I think we've both done wrong things in the past. I think we can move past this.
You want to be polite, you apologize to me.
Shanny, what do you want me to apologize for?
Yes, for all the shit you've talked about me before. All the things you've done and helped contribute to the hate.
Jason, can we redirect this back to the Israeli-Palestine conflict? I really don't.
I am, but right you see, you can't have apologized. You're not man enough to apologize. Now Jason can talk. I'm done.
Okay.
Well, could you set it up so that I'm on the camera better?
Well,
you put it on the other setting. You put yourself on there, dude, and I was giving you the show.
There. Am I still?
Hang on, Sam. I'm sorry, dude.
Sorry, no.
All right. So listen, I know you're.
Let's let tempers, kind of subside here. I'm trying to be very even keeled. I'm taking notes in another window to respond to your stuff.
That's fine.
I'm just trying to. So where do you want to redirect this back to?
Well, that's a great question because she took it personal, and I wanted this to be just about this issue. So, my position now, okay? And I mean, we can have a discussion on this stuff, but I'm pretty solid in my mind of where it is. So,
what would change your mind? because it seems like when I present what warfare experts say about the prosecution of the war, and I've readily conceded that I think that there are a lot of gray areas. I don't think we've ever encountered a war. Would you agree we've never encountered a war where the enemy combatant is so willing to sacrifice their own civilians for tactical political gain?
I agree completely. Yeah. Yeah. They're monsters. Hamas are monsters. I agree with that completely. And that's why I think, but what I see, Sam, for me, is it's an inside job. The governments are working together to kill as many civilians as possible. It's just as simple as that. That's what I see.
But what's the incentive for Israel to work with Hamas?
Well, okay.
Agenda 21.
Well, no. This is the same thing happened on 9/11. They like to say that the Mossad was part of 9/11. They were, in a way. The intelligence organizations of the planet work together in false flag operations. And when it comes to Hamas, I see them as the arm of the New World Order. They are, see, we're getting in, this is conspiracy theorist shit.
So
there's
Jason,
documentation.
Jason, yeah. I'm not gonna get emotional here, but like I have friends who have, you know, family and acquaintances who got gunned down.
I'm not saying no one died, Sam.
In the kibbutz.
No, absolutely. So I'm not saying people didn't die. I am
gonna have to say, like, you can make these vague references, but like there needs to be something that's more concrete, right? I can take Yahya Sinwar's public statements about wanting as many civilian casualties as possible, right? I can take Bibi Netanyahu's public and private statements, and I think, you know, the more reasonable lens here is that this is an ongoing ethno-religious conflict that's gotten more and more religious, and that you know, has further worsened the ability for Israelis and Palestinians to coexist.
I would agree. And what I would like to, you say a two-state solution, that's fine. But I think a better solution is a united Israel and a united Palestinian people living in the land together in peace and harmony.
Amen.
And it's once you could call it, I would call it Judah, because that would renew everybody's mind about that area. Judah was the righteous kingdom in the old days of Israel. I don't know why they picked the name Israel. But I would go with Judah. And it's Palestinian and Israeli united together in one state, and it's beautiful. That's what I'd love to see. You know?
I think that that's unfortunately just not politically possible.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, like, and this is where I'm going to be very careful about this, because I think that a lot of people say this in a very racist, xenophobic way. But I think that fundamentally, in terms of values, the Israelis and the Arab world writ large are incompatible in terms of values. I think that when you look, so would you say that Jordan is a particularly hostile country towards Israel?
Sam, I haven't researched this into the point recently enough to say yes or no to that.
So they're not that, they are not in fact that hostile to them.
I would say they wouldn't be. Yeah, in the history they haven't been. Yeah,
they have. Well, that's not true. But
is that not true? Maybe I thought Jordan was friendly.
No, 1948 they invaded. They had been firing shots periodically. So I've actually stayed in the King David Hotel, where you can literally see a sniper's nest across the border, where Jordanian sentries used to actually try to periodically inflame tensions. So Jordan, by no means, but now, you know, it's relatively.
I can, Sam, for the sake of the show, I want to tell everybody this man right here, Scientist Sam, is way more learned in knowledge and history than I am on this. So I give it to you, Sam. You know your shit. You do.
But like, here's the thing: is you're not allowed to wear Jewish religious garb and enter the country of Jordan. Their rating of favorability against Jews, they say Jews are 95% unfavorable. It's
that
just
comment. The comment she popped up is exactly, it's the Hegelian dialect. It's probably a reaction solution. This attack on October 7th was very weird, Sam. I know it's personal to you, but I'm not saying people weren't harmed. Yes, they are in false flag operations. They are harmed. Okay, people are harmed. They took this Sandy Hook thing with Alex Jones and said Alex Jones said no kids died and stuff. No, that's bullshit. No one ever said that except psychos from InfoWars. That the audience, the
I mean,
people died.
I think the problem is though is like it seems like you, except for the particular event, you don't seem to deny the nature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? I'm not saying that Israel has been correct. I think that Israel fumbled the bag completely in 1967. They should not have taken they shouldn't have taken the Gaza Strip. They shouldn't have taken the West Bank.
Right. I agree.
I agree. Then let it be the Palestinians and leave them alone.
Yeah.
So, but under what leadership for the Palestinians would be the question. So, do you know when the last
let the locals figure out their government?
But they're not. The problem is they're not going to. Right? These are.
You don't know that.
I do know.
There's plenty of people forming little tiny sanctions and governments within these tent cities. They're finding leaders.
Can you link an example? I'm unaware of that.
Oh God, I'm not going through my Instagram to try to find it. That's
so I would say that's
finding a needle in a haystack. But the thing is, I'm just telling you this from looking and watching the people
on the ground. Yeah,
on the ground.
Yeah.
So have you been to the West Bank or to Israel? I haven't been to the Gaza.
I don't need to be at the West Bank if there's someone with a video camera all the time there.
Just what I'm speaking to and what I'm getting at is, do you understand how Israelis, like Jewish Israelis, Israeli Arabs, and as well as, Palestinian Arabs, I'll call Palestinian Arabs referring to the West Bank, they all don't like each other. Like there's a reality. So Shanny, you had said in a past stream, they're getting married, they hang out. They do not hang out. It's actually illegal for Palestinians and Jews to get married. This often results in violence because all marriages in Israel are commissioned by religious bodies. So this has been a big thing. And we can talk about some of the roots of some of this. Like I think it's barbaric. But in terms of the favorability towards Jews, the Palestinian Arabs are extremely unfavorable for very good reason, right? Like I if I was living in the West Bank, I would not have great opinions of the Israeli regime there. I think the military occupation
safer with Palestinians than Israel.
I think that is that is coming from a privileged position of never having spent time in Palestinian cities.
I don't need to. Cities. I know for a fact I'd feel safer with the Palestinians than Israel.
I think that unfortunately that's just ignorant. You can look at,
I can be ignorant about it. They look at me as their sister. So whatever.
I don't think they would. They don't like Americans very much. They just like our money.
They like me.
Well, from our experience on Instagram, that's true, Shan. Yeah. But they do look, the Islamic people now call what we call the Messiah. So there's a big union coming together there that people never really understood. They're literally calling Jesus the Messiah.
They're calling the Christ.
Yeah. So they're starting to speak Christian. Yeah.
But then why is so this is one of the major cruxes, right? Is that the Israelis have to in my opinion, what the Israelis have to sacrifice is the benefits of the occupation, because there's very big economic benefits to it, which we can discuss at a different time. Most of it just has to do with it's a tiny strip of land and it's overpopulated. We can discuss some of the roots of the overpopulation. It's a different, but that's a big reason why they like the settlements. It's just because it's cheaper to live there.
Yeah,
because there's a huge amount of overpopulation in Israel, and this is due to several factors. The main one essentially being the Jewish exodus from the Muslim world. Now, on the other, so the Israelis have to kind of give up this idea of 100% safety for the time being, but the Palestinians and the Arab world in general, they have to stop rejecting Israel's right to exist.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I have to also say this. How about we can agree on both sides with this? I'm sure, and I'm saying this. Hamas and these organizations that encourage violence need to go. They need to go.
I agree 100%. So you agree
Right?
then with the goal, at least the stated goal of the incursion into Gaza,
Yeah.
which would be to eliminate and cripple, and they've pretty much already crippled Hamas's military
It seems that
capabilities.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Almost, right?
Right.
So I totally agree with you, but I think Arab rejectionism needs to stop, right? And I think we have this, this, and I don't blame you guys, right? If you don't look into it, you get a rosy view that these are people with reasonable values, that these are societies with reasonable values, but that's just not the case.
I
if you
understand
look
what
at,
you're.
and
Yeah.
let me put it this way. So, do you know what percentage of Israeli citizens after 1948, after the first Arab-Israeli war, what percentage, roughly, were Arabs? Some of
Tell
which
us.
were allowed to return. 20%.
Oh, only 20%. Wow. That's given.
That's not like, but you think about that. Name the biggest population of Jews in the Arab
I'd be
world.
more impressed if it was like 90% than 20%.
It wouldn't have been 90% even if they had just kept the territorial bounds of the mandatory power, because it would have been closer to 45-ish, 50% Jewish because of all of the refugees from the Holocaust. And even before then, it was about 30% Jewish. I'm reading, and shout out to Benny Morris's 1948. That's a book I'm reading right now. Really good book. He's considered pretty much the authoritative Israeli voice on this conflict. He's really the guy that uncovered some of the actual policy and expulsions that happened during the 1948 war. But when you look at it, right, look at the ability of Jews to coexist and Israelis to coexist with Arabs as opposed to vice versa. And I think it is that this is a key value thing that I think we in the West have to agree to, which is that the Israelis are just far closer in terms of values than.
Well, no, look, Shannon, he's right because they have.
Yeah, I've had so many.
Shannon, how many Jews? Look, how many Jews have been genocided?
That doesn't matter. How many Palestinians have been genocided?
Well, okay, but he makes a point.
It doesn't matter. People are dying, and more. And instead of actually saying stop the war, people give excuses for each side.
Wahhabist Islam is horrible and toxic, Shan. Wahhabist Islam.
Are they Wahhabist?
I'm not talking about
Hamas. I actually don't know that. Like, what is
don't you know, Sam?
What Hamas's denomination of Islam? Like,
I think they're Wahhabists. They believe in violence. That's my understanding. If you're Islamic and you believe in, go ahead. She's laughing at comments, Sam. Sorry.
It's my understanding that Hamas is more of a big tent movement. Basically, if you're Muslim and you believe in,
is that right?
Rejection. Okay. That's my understanding in terms of the politics there. Like, I agree.
Let me ask you this. Here's because you're so smart on this, Sam. Okay, let me ask you. In terms of a leadership for the Palestinian people, how do you see it? What would be the best leadership for them to get peace?
I hope this happens. So I hope. Right. Have you heard of Anwar Sadat?
Yes.
So do you know why Anwar Sadat was assassinated?
I have. Yeah. Tell us. This is educating the audience. Go for it.
So Anwar Sadat was essentially assassinated because he was willing to recognize Israel diplomatically. And I think the Palestinians need a Palestinian Anwar Sadat. And they haven't gotten it. So
you're correct.
I will tell you this. I will tell you this. In terms of poverty, this is what makes me, if you want to talk about my emotional attachment to the Palestinian people. So I've done charity work in the favelas in Brazil. That is something that is very meaningful experience.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So the only time I have seen that type of poverty again was when we were in Jericho and seeing the way that the Palestinians, and keep in mind, that's not Hamas, that's Fatah, the other party, right?
Right.
PLO's former
Yep.
party when the PLO existed.
That's
the more
Arafat stuff, right? That's Arafat.
Well, now it's Mahmoud Abbas.
Right. Abbas,
Who,
yeah.
who, by the way, wrote his PhD
Abu
thesis.
Mazen. They call him Abu
Yeah.
Mazen too. Yeah.
So he wrote his PhD thesis, by the way. It's a Holocaust denial document.
Oh my God. No,
So, like,
they need good leadership, Sam.
So he is worth over $100 million, and they are living in favela-like poverty. And that's not. And if you look at, I forget. So forgive me for not
Care
knowing
about
the
the
exact.
people.
No, he doesn't.
So
If
if
he
we
doesn't
look,
care about the people, fuck him.
Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, but that's also Hamas's leadership is even worse, right?
Right.
So Arafat was also worth about, I think it's hard to get exact estimates on this, right? Because these are people who obviously embezzle funds, obviously cook the books, and then also there's just like a societal acceptance in terms of the Arab world in corruption. Which I'm happy to provide evidence for in a second.
No,
but
that's fine. I
if
would.
you look
I
at
wouldn't even say, Sam. For the sake of the show, I'm going to say this. We're going to do an hour with this show.
Yes.
I think that's the
Sure.
best way to. Yeah, is that cool? All right, because just for
Sure.
the sake of the show. Okay, continue.
I got time until probably 6:45 ish at
Okay.
the latest.
Yeah.
But so essentially, when you look at the top three leaders, and I forget I think it was Khaled Mashal, Ismail Haniyeh, who recently was assassinated, and I don't think it's Mohammed Daif, but it might have been. Their combined net worth was $5 billion.
Wow.
Like,
And
these are
it's
the leaders
crazy,
of one of the worst
Sam, because
places.
I just wanted to say this quick. They claim poverty. You know what I mean? These leaders, they claim poverty. They try to make themselves look like the Palestinians, and it's a lie. So go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, the level of corruption is ridiculous, right? And so the issue would be is like, we need a process where there's a courageous leader who is willing to, say, hey, we need to, and this has been the history of this conflict, which I'm happy to go into actually what I think is the best version of this. They need to, the Arab world and the Palestinians in particular, they need to learn to do things in a Western style democratic way.
I hear what you mean.
That's why they fumbled.
Xenophobic of a comment.
I mean, listen, it's not politically correct.
No, it's colonization you're talking about, Sam.
No, they should be able to do it in their own.
Why can't
own way.
Why can't they have their own culture?
They
Why does it always have to be diplomatic in our way?
Because
that's
I
not
think
freedom.
It is freedom. I would say that
How?
the freest society in the Middle East is a Western style democracy. That's Israel, for all of its faults, is a Western style democracy. If we look at the freest countries in the world, they are Western style democracies.
Yeah, I don't think that's any of your business, though.
I am just explaining, right? So if we look back at history, right, during the do you know the main reason why, when they did the initial, partition plans with the UN, like why basically they didn't give in to nearly any demands by Palestinians? And this is in addition to the fact that this is the main reason. There's the second main, which is almost as important. There wasn't really a Palestinian national body that was lobbying the way that the Israelis did. The main reason is the international community was disgusted with them. They were disgusted with child labor that they were engaging with. They had no care to do diplomacy in a Western way. And that means to politic, to learn who everyone is, to make relationships. And I think for their own benefit, they need to do it. Aside from whether we think it's the correct thing, I think there's a lot of perfunctory bullshit that goes into that. But I think a start has to be being willing to, because every time when the Middle East, when people engage in Western style diplomacy, it leads to prosperity, right? It leads to good things.
I mean, this is a patriotic statement, scientist Sam. You're saying we should export democracy. You believe in that?
I don't think we should export democracy, but I think that we should support people who are willing to modernize and democratize.
That's okay. You would see that as colonizing, definitely. And in a way,
Yeah, it's a white person type of thing that they like to do. They did it to my people too.
Native America, yeah, the natives in America, yeah.
So I take offense to that.
But I guess
I mean-
what's the alternative, right?
Let people decide how they want to live their lives.
Okay,
But
I think the good.
What I'm, but
Go ahead,
I
Sam.
would say that the vehicle to doing that is a Western style liberal democracy.
I see what he's saying.
Uh,
The vehicle to get there.
yeah, I don't agree.
Okay,
Right?
That's, I mean, yeah.
I don't.
Well,
agree
imagine,
to
right?
push someone's culture and ethics and ways onto a people who
No.
think
You're
differently.
misunderstanding me. They should be allowed to live culturally and ethically how they want to, but they need to do politics in a Western way.
I
I don't agree with that.
Well, how would you have them do it then?
They can do it the way they want to.
But that's just leading to intransigence on this conflict, right? Like if
Yeah.
you look at
Only
the
for
reason why,
colonizers.
but
I mean-
for everyone, right? Like what has
No,
been the
man.
biggest, like what has been the biggest benefit?
I
to
am
what-
native. Shut the hell up.
Shan,
Like,
that's personal
What
stuff.
like
Go ahead,
what's been
Sam.
the biggest? I would ask you, been the biggest breakthrough in terms of Israel's peace?
Saudi. I would say
Well-
Saudi Arabia being friendly, Sam. That's what I would say.
No, I would say Anwar Sadat having the courage, and I have to praise Anwar Sadat. He had the courage to recognize Israel diplomatically and start to deal with
I
them
agree with
in a
you.
diplomatic way.
So your answer is literally we need someone new to come on the scene. That's Palestinian in nature or Arab in nature, period, and come forward and say, I recognize Israel.
I think the Palestinians need a representative who will do that. I think the bigger issue, they have to give up on this fantasy that Israel's not going to exist.
Right.
Their
I agree.
rejectionism needs to stop.
All right. I think
Well, then stop taking their land and homes,
okay.
and they won't feel that way.
We're close. We're about 7 minutes to the end of the show here. So I think the best thing we could do, Sam, we're going to do closing statements for your position on Israel and how you see it. Just do your closing statements, and then me and Shanny will do it.
So what I think is I'm going to answer a couple questions in the chat because I've actually been ignoring it.
Okay.
So Siobhan, slightly misspelled, but I know the name they're going after. Can I explain to the panelists how gays are treated in Islamic nations? Not well. It is illegal to be gay or LGBT in Gaza. You will get thrown off a building or executed.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
So
well,
what-
this is your closing. So go. Sorry.
But
I
the
have
biggest
something
thing
to
is
share.
Hang
It's
on,
kind of
Shanny.
important.
Okay, but
You might want to know this.
you could
It
do this
just
for our
happened.
closing, Shan. You could have. Okay.
I'm just saying, Israel just agreed to a ceasefire deal.
Wow. What? That's great.
There you go.
Okay. That's phenomenal. I hope it goes through and happens. Sam, you can go. Can we let him go?
Yes.
All right, go, Sam.
Yeah, I think that Israel's right to exist, despite any emotional invective, has to be affirmed. I think there's a couple of things that I would like to bring up. So I did correct some of the stuff that Shanny had mentioned earlier about Arabs and Israelis getting along. Unfortunately, they don't. I think that's a problem. Like, I think that there needs to be a stop with this isolation between the two parties. I think that they have a lot to engage in, and we can see the evidence of that. The Israeli Arabs are far more moderate than the surrounding nations, including the Palestinians. I think that the Jews and Israel have a right to exist. And
Absolutely.
if we're going to move towards a two-state solution, I think that Arab rejectionism needs to be given up. I stand by Golda Meir's remark, which is that the Arabs will have peace when they love their children more than they hate the Jews. And I think that is borne out by the history of this conflict. I think this is borne out by I think this is completely borne out by the current conflict, right? Where There have been ceasefire talks that have been on the table for months and months, and Hamas refuses to come to the table. I think
it's a little bit deeper than that.
We're not in this stage. He's closing.
I know.
Okay.
All right.
You almost done with your closing, Sam?
Yes. And essentially, we should be, as a country, as Americans, we should be supporting people who have our values. And if you, and I invite anyone, go to Tel Aviv. You will think that you're in an American city. It's a beautiful place. It's culturally rich. If you go to any city in the Arab world, you're not going to get that experience. And I think that for all of its flaws, Israel has Islamic parties that are represented in the Knesset. They've had Supreme Court justices that are Arabs. This is a place and by contrast, there is no place in the Arab world where you can give them proof that you are either Jewish or have been to Israel. You will get rejected out of hand. And so there also needs to be an equality made where Israeli Jews in particular, need to be more tolerant of Arabs, but the Arabs have got to even catch up to the minimum of how tolerant Jews are, because it's just not even close. And that's how I feel about it.
All right, Sam. Well, that's a great closing. Shanny, do you want to make a statement for closing?
Yes, there are plenty of gay Palestinians that are standing up against the Israeli government, may I say. Not all Muslims are anti-LGBT. That is a lie. Also, I just want to say that the war needs to stop. The ceasefire needs to stop.
The ceasefire needs to happen.
It needs to happen. Okay, these are civilians. These are moms, dads, children, the grandmas, grandpas, cousins, brothers, sisters. These are people that just want a normal life, and their whole life has been decimated and destroyed and turned into rubble. And they're doing their best, and it's hard when you have Israeli snipers sniping them out, which I've seen plenty of video on that. Probably could find it really easy. I can't broadcast it. Actually, you could just look on my Instagram page.
Yeah. That's the Real Revelation News we're at.
We report that stuff on there.
So, are you good? What else you got?
Also, thank you for joining us, Sam.
Yeah.
I may not agree with you, but I think what we do agree with is we need peace.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'll do my closing really quick. So this issue for me is really close to my heart because if you look at my Revelation News Radio page over on BTR, we had millions and millions of people listening to us live. And I was one step away from speaking to Bibi Netanyahu. And that's the truth because Stephen Denun, my co-host on Shabbat Live, we were really close to the Israeli government. I'm not going to say anything more on that. I shouldn't. So this is really a close thing to my heart. And I love Israel. I love the Israeli people, but I also love the Palestinians. And it breaks my heart to know that you are cousins. And this has been what you said, Sam, an ethno-religious conflict. And the innocent blood that's been spilled from it breaks my heart. And I think it's time for Israeli and Palestinian to come hand in hand and go to wherever they want to worship or not worship. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. We have
but,
what is your thought on... So I have a question then. What is your thought on the fact that the Palestinians and the Muslims will not allow Jews to worship at the Temple Mount?
I think that's wrong. Are you kidding? That place is so sacred to both the peoples that
you couldn't even enter if you went. You couldn't enter as a Christian.
Yes.
So let's be correct on religious tolerance here. It's run, and I mean that because there's a guy with an AR who guards it.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to have this overarching statement to close up because we're at the end of the show. I just wanted to say that this bloodshed needs to end on both sides. And you want peace, right, Sam?
I do. But I also want but also, like, I think that there needs to be something that's said here, which is that there are, what is it, 23, 25 different Muslim countries, and there's one
Yeah.
Jewish state. And yet,
Absolutely.
and any time that a Jew tries to exist in these countries, they get ethnically cleansed out of it.
Right.
Right? Like, let's not forget that. And I think that that was actually one thing I took big exception to Shanny saying, was being dismissive of the persecution of Jews in the Arab world.
Absolutely.
No, I agree with that, but I also believe the Jews persecute the Muslims as well. When is this fight? This fight started with Ishmael and Hagar, when Abraham separated them from his people. This is when it first started. And because, I don't know if you believe in it, but because of our DNA, or their DNA and your DNA, you have a conflict, a historical conflict within your DNA, because it was two brothers that should have been together and love each other, and they were separated just because a woman was jealous.
That's true.
That's when
I
it
mean,
all started. They're your brothers, Sam.
Cousins, yeah.
We can look at, like, yes, they're genetically similar, although I know Jason, I think, denies that in the case of Ashkenazi Jews.
No.
Because you believe in the Hazar hypothesis. Which
the Khazar. There are Ashkenazi Jews that are Jews because of their tribe. No, absolutely, they're in. I'm talking about Khazarians that are Satanists. They come from Europe. They're not even Jewish. That's what I'm talking about. That's a whole nother issue, and we got to close up here. Okay, Sam, I want to thank you so much, and everybody that's here, thank you. This was a great discussion. Gets heated. This is a rough, tough topic, but we respect you, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. Glad to be here.
All right. Peace out, man.
All right.
Let's end it.
All right. Well, okay. We have an announcement to the folks.
Yeah.
You want to give the announcement?
Oh. We became YouTube partners today on my birthday.
And Israel says they want a ceasefire on your birthday.
Well, that's fun. I mean, this is a pretty good day, man. But anyway, I'm just saying that's pretty awesome. We are. What's up?
Jason, is Siobhan in the chat correct? You said that Polish Jews are not Jews?
No.
Polish, and a lot of my family that didn't make it over to the States was annihilated in the Holocaust. So that would lead to a personal issue between us.
No way. I didn't say that. I'm saying
you would understand why that would become
a lot of them are reverts.
I'm saying that Bibi Netanyahu's family, these people are claiming, they're making a claim to that land. And the fact of the matter is they have no claim to it. Unless they're under God with a temple. You have no right to the land.
What determines the rights of a people to the land? Because the Arabs came there as part of the conquering crusade.
The Bible does. That's where we're going to end it, folks, because this is a whole other discussion. Thanks for being with us. End the stream now, Shannon.
Yes.
Peace out.